Here's an old one you probably have heard. I don't remember exactly how it goes. I only know the punchline. So I built the joke around the punchline. There's a man who gets a health scare. He's looking very old for his age. And his doctor tells him, if you don't start taking care of yourself, do something about how you're living, you're going to die soon. So the man immediately takes action. He looks in the mirror. He agrees. So he diets, he exercises, he dyes his hair, what's left of it, covers the bald spot with a toupee, gets LASIK surgery. He looks younger and better than he's looked in years, and without warning, he gets hit by a bus and dies. So he complains to God, I don't understand. It's me, Solly Cohen. I'm in the best shape of my life. I look and feel younger than ever now. God says, Solly, I didn't recognize you. Okay. That's good, yeah. A few stories, and that's the same theme. So that's why I asked Rabbi Cantor, did you ever tell the story of the ship of Theseus? And you said, you don't know what that story is. Okay, so here it is. There is something from Greek mythology called the ship of Theseus. There was a king named Theseus, founder allegedly of the city of Athens. The story, though, isn't about the king. The story is about a ship. And the story goes that this was a great ship, and when a plank of wood needed to be replaced, it was replaced. So he replaced one plank of wood. Is it still the same ship? Yeah, it looks like the same ship. I guess some shaking their head. And over time, this happened over and over and over again, till the entire ship did not have any original parts. All the planks of wood over many years have been replaced. So the question is it still the same ship? And that's a metaphor for the world, for life, for Solly Cohen. If you change everything, are you still the same person? Now, we look in the mirror. Rabbi was just talking about looking in the mirror in a different way. You look in the mirror, I look in the mirror. I look the same as I was yesterday. I still feel like an awkward teenager from 50 years ago. But when I look at a picture of myself, look at a picture of yourself from 50 years ago, you go, is that me? Am I that person? I don't want to try to be the doctor in the room, the scientist, but I understand that we do change. I mean, some of us, of course, have big changes. We get artificial parts, we get transplanted organs, other things happen that are very obvious, but apparently our cells constantly die and are renewed. So we are, in a sense, different, but are we really different? A third story. We're told in the Talmud, amazing story. It's just wonderful. This is a wonderful story, and this is what we find those who come to the Talmud class on Sunday. You never know what you're going to get. And then we have stories which make us so proud to be conservative Jews. You say, that story was written for conservative Judaism from the 20th, 21st centuries. I think you'll get the point in a second. So the story is told, you may have heard it before because it's a great one. Moshe, however this happened, had the privilege of seeing God in heaven, and God was writing, as if God does things that human beings do, and Moshe's inquiring, what's God doing? And God is putting little crowns on the letters of the Torah. So if you come up to the Torah, if you had an Aliyah, you read Torah, you see the Hebrew letters have little things that adorn the letters. They look like little crowns, little shapes. And when the Sofer writes the Torah, they always make sure to write these little things. We don't need them to read the words. We can see an aleph is an aleph, a bet is a bet, but these little crowns are part of the tradition of writing the Torah. So Moshe says to God, what are you doing? Why are you spending your time putting little crowns on the letters? The world needs so much. This is what you're doing. And God says, years from now, more than 1,000 years from now, there will be a man, a rabbi, Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Akiva is going to see the crown and is going to make an interpretation. Based on the crown, this is what the word means. Imagine that. And Moshe is just flabbergasted. How could that be? So in a scene that you picture from A Christmas Carol, right? Scrooge going back in time, God says, or forward in time to the future, in this case to the future, God says, I'll show you. You want to see it? I'll show you. So God takes Moshe to the Beit Midrash, to the study hall of Rabbi Akiva. And Moshe sits in the back row and the students are there, and Rabbi Akiva is teaching Torah. He's teaching interpretation of Torah and what Jewish life is all about in his time, again, more than 1,000 years after Moshe. And Moshe, the greatest rabbi, Moshe Rabbeinu, he can't follow the conversation. He's confused. He's thinking, what Torah is this? And at one point, a student asked Rabbi Akiva, how do you know that your interpretation is correct? And Rabbi Akiva says, this was taught to Moshe at Mount Sinai. There's an expression, this is Torah LeMoshe Misinai. And Moshe still doesn't understand, but he feels better. He says, wow, he learned that from me. Imagine that. So this is a little bit of this theme. If Moshe didn't recognize Rabbi Akiva's Beit Midrash, what would happen if Moshe came into our shul? Would Moshe know what's going on? Would Moshe know what a Siddur looks like? Moshe know what a Shabbat service looks like? Wasn't Moshe's world. But would what it would be doing if Moshe understood it, give honor to him? Would Moshe see, oh, I see what you're doing. Things have changed. Things have changed a lot from my day, but you're still on the path that I was on thousands of years ago. Now, don't be fooled. Don't think that there are some Jewish communities who say, we're doing exactly what they've been doing for years, that nothing has changed. That's not true. There are communities today that live very similar to the way Judaism was practiced, say, 400 years ago in Europe. But nobody's practicing Judaism the way that Moshe practiced. We all have changed, some more than others. So I want to now bring it back to Parshat Tetzaveh. We called up, where'd he go? Jerry Cohen to the Torah today. Or sometimes, there he is. Or sometimes we call up Jerry Katzman or others who are Kohanim. Jerry, you didn't come up in your headdress and your breastplate and your robes and the bells hanging from you. If you don't know this image, see the first Indiana Jones movie, right? Raiders of the Lost Ark. And you'll see somebody dressed up like the Kohen Gadol. That's what the Torah told us. This is what the Kohen Gadol is supposed to wear. Didn't happen today. We've never seen this. And yet, we do. Two ways. One, when we take the Torah out of the ark, look at what the Torah looks like. Look how we dress the Torah. Like the Kohen Gadol, the Torah has a robe. The Torah has a headdress. The Torah wears bells. The Torah has a breastplate. So we have, in fact, changed in a very clever way. We're not the same. We're not practicing the words that Moshe received, although, again, Moshe's name is not mentioned, but Moshe knew about these words. And yet we've kept that tradition alive in one way. Let me tell you another way. That breastplate, it's called the Choshen Mishpat, called the breastplate of decision. In those days, ideally, or it sounded like there were powers to that breastplate, that the Kohen Gadol was able to answer questions, was able to make determination and judgment based on wearing that breastplate. The words Choshen Mishpat actually are a book, a bigger than a book, a section of a great book of Jewish law, which you know is the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch is divided into 4 parts, and one of those parts is called the Choshen Mishpat. So we've taken the clothing of the Kohen Gadol and we've turned it into a book of Jewish law. Also, we are told that the breastplate had four columns of stones, and there were 12 stones altogether representing the tribes of Israel. A predecessor to Rabbi Joseph Caro, the author of the Shulchan Aruch, named Jacob ben Asher, he wrote another book, used the same format that was kept alive by the Shulchan Aruch, and it was called the Arba'ah Turim, the four columns, the same words that are used in the Torah to describe the breastplate. So we have taken clothes of the Kohen Gadol and turned them into books that guide our lives. We don't look to a person, we look to the Torah, and we look to our books of wisdom. So we ask the question again, if Moshe came into our shul, let alone if Moshe Ginsburg came into our shul, wouldn't recognize everything. But if Moshe Rabbeinu came into our shul, Rabbi Cantor would have a conversation with Moshe and say, but Moshe, here is the Choshen Mishpat, and go into the library. We are not living exactly as you lived, but are we on the path from Sinai? If we could turn around, so to speak, and walk backwards spiritually over thousands of years, would we lead back to Sinai? And I think the answer is yes. Shabbat Shalom.